Well, welcome, Pam, and thank you. As you can see, this is a topic that's important to many in the room. Welcome, Pam, and thank you. As you can see, this is a topic that's important to many in the room. So I want to make sure we keep this conversation interactive. We'll build on it. I'll invite you to ask questions. So if we'll usually leave that to the end, but feel free to jump in if something comes to mind. But I do want to start with what inspired you to write this book, and what message did you really want to share with women?
I said the book actually started here in Rhode Island. A friend of mine from Bristol, Ann Shostak, and I were talking about a lot of the studies that about what Americans think. And Pew Research did a study that showed that 60% of Americans think that children would be better off if one of the parents stayed at home. And so think about that. Every day when a working mother goes to work, more than half of her friends, family, and colleagues think she shouldn't be there. And yet we knew that our children had turned out well, and our friends who worked also had children who turned out well. So were our children anomalies, or were they really the norm?
What were some of the themes that emerged from your interviews or your survey?
Well, I think one of the things that was interesting is that working mothers knew they wouldn't be there all the time, and so they felt that they had to be more deliberate on what they taught their children. And one of the things they taught their children was resilience. It was interesting that one of the daughters had an experience that she had been laid off on her first job, and she had gone into publishing, and we all know that there were a lot of consolidations in that industry, but it was the first time she'd really failed at anything. She'd done well in school, she graduated from college, got her dream job, and then she got laid off. And yet she remembered a time when her mother was very unhappy at her job and would come home and tell her children, look, this is just not the right job for me, and I don't like my boss. It's going to take me a while, but I'm going to get a new job. And so here this woman was in her early 20s, realizing that even though she was unemployed and she was very depressed, that she'd seen her mother rebound from a difficult situation, and she knew if her mother could do it, that she could do it too. And so I think one of the things that we teach our children is that life is difficult, and yet you're going to give them the tools that they can handle these situations as they come along. And as working mothers, we are not necessarily going to be there all the time, and so we want to talk to them about the things that go on in life and go on in work so that they have these tools when they need them.
So, in your opinion, obviously the challenges we face through the generations has changed. So is it more difficult or is it easier now?
I think that's a really good question, and I think each generation has its own challenges. And so when I was raising children, women were pretty much alone. We were in, as I said, our own silos. The feminism that was popular in the day did not move into the workplace. I mean, I was in an environment where you didn't have pictures of your children, you didn't talk about them at work, and we didn't talk to each other. And yet when I went home, I was able to really focus on my kids. I might have brought some paperwork that I would read after they went to bed, but there were no email, there was no smartphone, people weren't texting me and expecting me to respond. The mothers today have different challenges. So they've got the flexibility sometimes to work from home. They can, for example, see the pictures that come in from the preschool that get sent out, which is great, and feel you more part of your child's life if they're in a daycare center. You can email your children's teachers. You can be on listservs and get their homework. You can connect with other mothers on Facebook or however else you want to do that. But then again, a lot of you are faced challenges where you're never off. And so your phone is always with you. People feel free to call you at 10 o'clock at night. When you are supposedly have a day off, they think nothing of sending you emails and expect that rapid response. So I think that there's some good things and some bad things, and we all just have to figure out how to deal with the challenges of today.